what you mean. So I had that conversation with the realtor, and he said, okay, well, when I get the listing agreement, I'll let you know. And I said, okay, fair enough. Do you have any idea what the bank is asking for the property or plans to ask for the property? And he said, no, I really don't, and I won't until I get the listing agreement. And I said, well, when do you think that'll be? And he said, geez, I thought I'd had it by now. I'm surprised I don't have it yet, so I assume any day. Well, I said, okay, let me give you my contact phone numbers, my email address, and all the ways you can get a hold of me so that when you get this listing agreement, you can get in touch with me easily. And I did that. I gave him all my numbers and everything. So 2 weeks went by, and I didn't hear anything from him, so I called him up. I said, hey, it's me, Cam. I'm just checking in with you to see if you heard anything from the bank on this. And he said, no, I haven't. I haven't gotten a listing agreement, and I still have no idea what they're going to ask for the property. I said, okay. Well, you have all my contact information, right? And he said, yep, I sure do. I said, all right, well, will you contact me when you get it? And he said, absolutely. Another week went by. I was in Chicago teaching a 3-day training. I love doing live, well, we're live. You're here, I'm here. But, I mean, live where we're all together in the same room. I love doing trainings like that. They're so much fun. But anyway, I was in Chicago, and it was the first morning of the first day at the first break when my cell phone rang. I happened to be on break. I took the call. And it was him, and he said, hey, I just got the listing agreement. I said, okay, cool. What's the asking price? He said, $76,000. And then he said, what's your offer? Now let's go back. The house had an after-repair value of $200,000, needed $14,000 in repairs. The asking price is $76,000. Is that a good deal? Holy smokes, that's a great deal. So he asked me, what's your offer? I said, $76,000. Now, let's examine this a little bit. What if the bank were asking $176,000? Do you think that I would have offered that? No, that would have made no sense whatsoever. And do some banks come, right out of the gate with a ridiculous, overinflated, they'll never get it in a million years asking price on houses? Sure, it happens. But the reality is deals like this one where they're asking a very realistic price happen all the time. And if you would argue, in other words, this is by no means a fluke in this market. And if you would argue that, well, that happens where you live, Cam, but not where I live, my response to that would be, I bet it does, and I bet it happens a lot. But I also bet that those deals are flying over your head and landing behind you. Not anymore. Not anymore. So he said, what's your offer? I said, $76,000. Well, the following morning, no, I got to back up. He said, okay, I'll email you a contract. I'll get it all filled out. I need you to sign it and get it back to me with proof of funds as soon as possible. So it was like 10:15 in the morning. We went back to work at the training. At the lunch break, which came at noon, I grabbed my laptop, went to the business center, printed out the contract, signed it, printed out proof of funds, and got them back to him immediately. So we're within a couple hours of our conversation, he now has a purchase offer in his hands with proof of funds. He sent that off to the bank. The following morning, he called and said, the bank has accepted your offer. So I now have this house under contract for $76,000. Next step, go to the buyer's list. Once you have that property under contract, you have equitable rights. That means it's okay for you to start marketing this house to sell it. And that's what we want to do. We go to the buyer's list. If you have a buyer's list, good. Keep building it. If you don't have a buyer's list, you need one. Because honestly, you may never be confident enough to make offers to purchase until you're confident that you can sell these houses. Without that confidence, you're dead in the water. And with a big buyer's list, you've got tons of confidence to make those offers. And by the way, that's one of the biggest reasons people leave the business of real estate. They're never really sure they're going to be able to sell, so they're scared to make an offer to buy and don't do it, and so they leave the business having never even started. Not you. You have a huge buyer's list, or will soon have a huge buyer's list, and you're going to do it all on autopilot using my two-pronged approach, which I'm going to get to in just a minute. So we go to the buyer's list. The message is, I got a great deal on a house on Rugby Road. It's got an after-repair value of $200,000, needs $14,000 in repairs, asking, and what I asked on this property, $129,000. Well, let me ask you this: if the house is worth $200,000 and it needs $14,000 in repairs, do you think I could have sold it for more than $129,000? Absolutely, I could have. And right there is the essence of successful wholesaling. You have to ask yourself that question: could I sell this house for more? And the answer needs to come from your heart of hearts, and it needs to be a resounding yes. And when that's the case, your house will sell like that. Hold out for top dollar. Try to retire on any one deal. Forget that you're wholesaling this house, and you'll hear crickets, and you won't make a plug nickel on the thing. Sell it cheap, it goes away like that. Hold out for top dollar, crickets. So we've already talked about that. So anyway, within 2 days, I had the property under contract for a full asking price of $129,000, and I got a $5,000 earnest money deposit from the buyer. 17 days from the day the bank accepted my offer, we closed, and I walked away with a check for $55,000. We closed by way of what's called a simultaneous or back-to-back or same-day closing. Now, you may have heard of that, and you may have heard, oh, that doesn't work. Yes, it does. In fact, we're closing a same-day deal right here in this office for one of our clients. We're funding that deal tomorrow. Literally tomorrow, we're doing a same-day deal. They happen all the time. But not every deal will close same day. And the funding that we offer goes beyond just same day, which is typical transactional funding is same day funding only. We go way beyond that. We go way beyond that, and I'll talk to you about that in just a little bit. The bottom line is, if your deal simply won't work as a same-day closing, it is not a deal killer. This one was a same-day closing. And here's the key. In order to make this work, you've got to have wet funds. All right, so let me explain that. Not so long ago, and for, back to Moses, you could do a same-day closing without needing to have any money at all. And the reason it worked was because if you're paying your seller $76,000 for the house and your buyer's paying you $129,000, well, shoot, you could just take $76,000 out of your buyer's $129,000, float it over to your seller's escrow, satisfy that, and you're done. You walk away with the difference. You never had to bring any money to the closing table at all. That used to happen every day. Not anymore. Now, title insurance companies, they want to see there needs to be a paper trail. So closing agents just won't do it anymore that way because their title insurance company that they answer to wants to see a paper trail of the funds for that $76,000 purchase coming from you, the buyer, or from your funding source. It can no longer come from your buyer's money. Used to be you could do that, not anymore. Now you need wet funds. Well, on a same-day closing, you only need that money for a few hours. $76,000 for a few hours. If you have the $76,000, you're golden. If you don't have the $76,000, no paycheck for you. Simple as that. So let me ask you a question. Do you think having to have the wet funds, that $76,000 to close this deal, do you think having to have that, is that a good thing or a bad thing? It's a great thing. Because think about all the competition it eliminates. Now, you might be saying, well, yeah, Cam, and it eliminates me. Well, not anymore. Not anymore now that you know me. I want to fund your deals. I'm in the business of changing people's lives, and believe me, with what we do in here, funding deals for folks, we are changing their lives in just an absolutely profound way. And the level of that change, if you will, is clear as black and white. And I'm going to show you examples of that in just a few minutes. So you've got to have wet funds to do this. You can't do an assignment. Now, some of you know what that is. With a bank-owned property or with a short sale, it says right there, you may not assign this deal to someone else. So you've got to have the money to close. That's where I come in. All right, and then step 12 is to cash the big check. Now, I'm not happy about presenting a 12-step program here. I mean, we all know what that's reminiscent of. But the bottom line is I'm not about to leave out the best part, which is to cash the big check. And what would you do, or what will you do with that $55,000? Have you figured out yet? I asked you before. Have you thought of that? Have you figured out where you'll go with that money? The bills you'll pay, the person you'll help, the charity you'll give to, the car you'll buy, the bracelet you'll get for your spouse or whatever. You want to be thinking about that. All right, so now the big question is, how do I do this once a month or twice a month or more? once, twice, or more each month. This is not, I'm not here to show you how to have a hobby. I'm here to show you how to build a business. And this isn't some pie in the sky used to work years ago stuff. This is what's going on right now. And the bottom line is you've got to have a way to make this a business and not a hobby. So I'll share that with you in a second. Before we do, let's talk about why. What I know, because I poll folks everywhere I go when I'm in the same room with them, I know that the average net income on wholesale deals like I'm describing here is $15,000. That's net income, 15 grand. And the average time spent on these deals is 3 hours or less. 3 hours or less. How could you do a deal, make 15 grand in as little as 3 hours? Guys, this is wholesaling. This isn't rehabbing. This isn't short sales. This isn't rentals. That's how we can do a deal, make an average of 15 grand in an average of 3 hours. And that 3 hours is a sort of aggregated total, 10 minutes here, 5 minutes there on the phone, another 10 minutes here, signing a contract, 5 minutes there. It takes that 3 hours you have to kind of compress over the course of a few weeks. And then when you do that, you begin to realize, oh, my gosh, this basically took none of my time. I was on the phone the other day for a few minutes, and I was on the phone this morning for a few minutes. I mean, there's nothing to it. It's easy. That's why, after all these years, I wholesale houses. I've done rehabbing. I've done rentals. I've done all of that. And I keep coming back to wholesaling because it's easy. So think about it. If the average income's 15 grand and it takes 3 hours, and you did that once a month, could you quit your job? 15,000 on average, 3 hours time spent twice a month. Now, could you live large? What about 3 or more times per month? Could you have everything in the world you want? Guys, I've got students, clients across the country that are doing this 5, 6, 7 times a month. You set the volume knob wherever you want it. If you're a busy stay-at-home mom, you've got kids to care for, you only have a little bit of time, do it once a month. If you are ready to quit your job and you've got all kinds of time, do it 3, 4, 5 times a month. And I have students, clients, and perhaps you'll be one of them, that are doing these deals all over the U.S. So you live in Northbrook, Illinois, and you're doing deals in Austin, Texas, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and Greensboro, North Carolina. How is that possible? Well, because you have a system. You systemize the business. That's how, not only is that how you're going to do this once or twice or 3 or more times a month, but that's how you can do it anywhere in the country, right from your desk. You've got to systemize the process. Ask anyone who's successful, how did you do it? They'll say, well, I got it down to a science, or I have a system. I got it down to a system. Your system